Welcome back to the McCoy Leadership Podcast, elevating your impact through valuable conversations and insights into today's leadership. Welcome back. Hopefully you enjoyed episode 1, which was just a little bit of a background of who we are and what we do here at McCoy Leadership. I'm your host, Amos McCoy, and as promised, this week is another solo podcast. It'll be short and to the point, but I want to discuss something pretty important that I think is really valuable to everybody out there, the leaders and those in the workforce as well. And I wanted to talk a little bit about the Maxwell DISC Method, personality indicators. I am a DISC consultant, and so as you listen to this, if you find something you find interesting, just reach out, shoot us an email or a text or a phone call, and we can talk about how we can work some of these things in. Sporadically throughout the year, I do DISC information sessions, which are about 1-hour sessions, and you'll gain a great understanding of what DISC is and how it can help you. And you'll get a good idea of where you might fall as far as the personality indicators go. But I thought I would start out today just talking a little bit about some of the places that DISC can help and a little bit of the background of what DISC is. If you've never heard of the DISC profile, it's been around for a very long time. It dates back to about 1928. And there was a gentleman that published a book and kind of came around to this idea. And there are lots of other folks that have studied the origin of human behavior all the way back to Greek philosophers back in the 400 BCs that were taking a look at how people interacted with each other, how individuals were different, and how they behaved under different circumstances. So the study of human behavior has been going on forever. One of the things I like to do when I start out a DISC information session or a DISC mastermind is I always tell people that all people are different, but they're predictably different. That's the big thing. Once we really get down to it, all of us are a little bit different, but we tend to do the same things over and over again. How many of you have interacted with that person that you just really can't interact with? You can't quite place your finger on it, but you maybe like to strangle them. I think we've all run into one of those people in our lives. But many times it's just that they're a different personality type than what maybe we are, and we don't know how to deal with that and how to turn that into a lasting relationship, working relationship, personal relationship, however that may be. Sometimes it's at home. Sometimes it's with our loved ones, our family, our children. Maybe we just don't know how to interact with them very well. So understanding a little bit more about DISC and who you are and how you interact will help you tremendously. William Marston came up with the DISC profile in 1928. He came out with a book called The Emotions of Normal People. His DISC theory identified that while each of us is a combination of all 4 categories, we can connect our personality to varying degrees in these 4 areas of dominance, influencing, steady, and compliant. So hence the DISC. So that's enough about the history of it. Let's talk about how it can really help us. There are certain things that we get in life that just come through heredity. They come from birth. They're distinct patterns and behavior that we have. There are other things that will impact us throughout our lives that are based on the environment and the places that, or the things that have happened to us. And then lastly, are all of those people around us. They help to shape us into who we are. I started out as about a 7-year-old kid working for an auctioneer as a runner. And he was, I guess I was 7 years old. He was getting close to 80. And he became one of my best friends. And I loved the industry. I loved being around him. But now, 40 years later, here I am. I find myself from time to time realizing that I do things that I saw him do just because he was one of my role models. And so that helped to shape me into who I am today. So DISC and going through a DISC profile, one of the things or one of the questions that we often get is it possible that I'm two different people? Absolutely. Sometimes a DISC profile, if we fill it out for our job and for what we do during the day, it is one thing. And if we fill it out for what we are when we're at home and with our family, it might be yet another thing. Now, most often they're very similar, but we probably don't act the same way at home and run our families the same as what we run our businesses that we're at during the day. Our families probably wouldn't like us a whole lot if we ran our homes the same as we did our businesses. Business and home are two different things, so hence you can have two different DISC. Another question that often comes up is, can I change it? You know, if it's who I am and a combination of all the things that have happened throughout my life have turned or have created this personality profile, can I change it? And absolutely, the first step in changing it is just understanding who you are, how you interact with others, and then working your way through that. A good way to kind of check in every so often is maybe after a year or so of working on the things that you want to change, retaking your DISC. Now, one of the biggest differences with the John Maxwell method of DISC, as opposed to some of the other DISC that are out there, is we add an additional graph in there. And that graph will show us how we interact and what happens when we're under pressure. And that's one of the areas that I think is very important, because sometimes as leaders, we task ourselves with things, and sometimes when things start to get tough, a high D that already maybe doesn't communicate real well but has decent communication may drop communication all around and say, I'm just going to get it done. I'm going to do it myself. I can do it better than anybody else. I can't trust anybody else. I'm just going to get it done. And as you can see and imagine what would happen in the workplace, in that scenario, you're going to alienate some people. So understanding that that is our nature and thinking about it will help us. Some of the other places that DISC can help us tremendously is in hiring. That's one of the areas that I help folks in quite frequently. One of the things that we are able to do is if everybody in a department or everybody in a workplace were to take the DISC assessment, then we can create a group DISC profile, which takes a look at what that group as a whole, how they kind of score and how they are. And that can help us in trying to figure out what good questions to ask in an interview. Many times in an interview, I've sat in on many, and the questions that come up are, can you use a computer? Can you type? Can you use a spreadsheet? Do you understand financials? All of those questions are great questions that pertain specifically to the job that that individual is applying for. But we very rarely do we ask questions that might help us understand where they fall on the DISC profile and how they're going to fit with the group that is there. If you have a group of 10 and you need to hire one additional, and that one additional may have all the skills in the world and do the job amazingly, but maybe they just don't fit with the group personality style wise, and it's going to create conflict. That doesn't mean you don't hire the person necessarily. It just means that you know and have a game plan going in how you're going to help to manage that and help to foster good communication and good understanding between those people. Another area that we have is fairly new is our student success DISC. And the student, there's actually two versions of the student DISC. The version for high school students, I guess late middle school through high school, even into the beginning of college, is a great tool that helps students not only to understand where they fall in their DISC profile, but it also helps them to understand how they study and how they learn. It helps them understand how to set up their study area, how best to go about taking notes and getting information that they would be able to retain it. And it also goes through at the end and gives some career pathways that would be good choices for that individual based on what their personality profile is. This can be a great tool because I remember many years ago I did an interview with a local magazine, and one of the questions they asked me was, how did you get to where you are today? Which is always a fun question because I could probably spend a couple hours just on that. But what I told them was the biggest thing that helped me to get to where I am today was at a young age, I learned how I learn. And understanding that about myself, I was able to make sure that I got the most out of everything that I did, whether that be taking a class, reading a book, reading a manual about a concrete block machine when I was in that industry. I understood how I learned best, and I was able to leverage that to be able to learn things very rapidly. If I would have tried to learn those things in other ways, I would have not been nearly as successful as I was because I understood how I learned. So a DISC assessment for a student so that they can have that understanding and be able to not only interact with people better, but to understand themselves and how they learn and how they are going to retain information the best. That is a great gift for somebody, a great way to help them get a start into their career and having a better understanding of who they are and what they, who they are and how they learn. So DISC can be good for just an individual as well. If you've never taken one and you take your DISC, that can help you to understand how you relate to others, how you can get better, how you can interact with others. It can also help you through the path of if you're thinking about what's next, you're thinking about what career is next. Maybe you're in between things, you've sold your business or you've left one business, you're getting ready to go to another. Taking a DISC assessment can help you to see where you fall and how you're going to best fit. It can also help you to derive questions that you might ask on the other side of that interview table. So DISC for individuals is a great tool. It will help you. It will elevate your leadership and how successful you are with others. DISC for groups is another great way. The other thing which we talked about on the hiring side, but I have done many places where we will do a DISC assessment for a department. Then we'll pull them all together and we kind of go through a learning session and working with everybody and knowing what their DISC profiles are. We kind of go through, explain to them what the different sections mean. But then we talk about how do you interact with another? How does a D interact with an S? How does an I interact with a C? What are some of the things you can do? I am one of those people. I'm a high D. And if I get an email that is 24 paragraphs long, the chances of me reading that all in one sitting are very slim. But if you send me an email that has 4 bullet points in it and then 24 paragraphs, I'm going to read those 4 bullet points and kind of have an idea of what the rest of it is about and then make a decision on whether I need to sit there and read that right then and there or I can act on those 4 bullet points. That's just me individually. I'm also one of those people that if an employee was to come in every Monday and sit down and want to talk for an hour about how their weekend was, I'm going to struggle with that. But knowing that that's how I am, I have been able to adjust and recognize when I'm in different situations. If I'm with another high D, I can, talk really fast. I can give bullet points and we can have a 5-minute meeting, be really successful and get out the door. If I'm with a high I may need to slow down a little bit. I might have to make a couple of meetings, to sit down and go through those things with that person. So it has helped me tremendously as a consultant, as a leadership expert, to be able to gauge how I'm connecting with people and adjust because I know naturally how I am. So it's great in those circumstances as well. And then lastly, of course, as we talked about before, the student DISC, another great tool to be able to work your way through and understand for those younger folks how they may learn. Somebody did ask me, they were maybe in their 30s, and they said, "Can I take the student disc?" Absolutely. Even for adults, if you're at a place where you're not sure what the next step is, or you're thinking of going back to school, you're thinking of taking a certification, something of that nature, it can still be valuable for you because it's going to help you to understand those same things, how you learn, maybe what some good job picks might be. So that's something you will hear us refer to as we're going through interviews and those types of things over coming podcast. But I encourage you, check it out on our website. Check out DISC in general, but I really encourage everyone out there to, if you've never done a DISC assessment, to take your way through it and kind of use it as a tool to help you become more successful as a leader. In our next episode, we're going to be doing a really exciting interview, and we're going to be talking about the movement from manager to CEO, from operator to owner. We're going to be talking about kind of the transition from being a worker to now being an executive. How do you get there, and what are some of the struggles that you may go through? So we'll look forward to that next episode. We have about 5 or 6 episodes lined up right now. We'll be working on over the next couple of weeks. My goal will be to try to get one out at least every 2 weeks. If things are going really well, maybe we'll get an extra one out and get one out every week. So until next time, check out our website, look at our social media, and see how you can connect with us. Thanks, and we'll see you next time around.